So right now there is an all-time historic record high in terms of the number of people outside of the workforce. 95.3 million people are outside of the workforce under Donald Trump. Now this might sound weird, right? Because we keep hearing that the unemployment rate is down and we're seeing sort of steady job creation, albeit maybe a little below expectations. How could it be that we have this 95.3 million number in terms of people out of work under Trump, a record, especially when under Obama, it was the only thing we would hear about from Republicans. Every time we had good economic news under President Obama, we'd hear on Fox News and from other right wing media, record number of people out of the labor force. And that's exactly the point of the story. That number was deceptive under Obama and it's deceptive under Trump, but you only heard it from right-wing media under President Barack Obama. And we have the latest data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and it is very clear that the truth is the number of people out of the workforce, as those who are watching with us can see on this graph, the number of people out of the workforce has been steadily climbing for a long time, even before Obama was president, right? I mean, this graph goes back to January of 2007. A full 2 years before President Obama took over. But the truth is, and I've been consistent about it, this is not a good evaluation of the economy. It's not a good evaluation under a Democratic president, and it's not a good evaluation under a Republican president. And you might be saying, David, explain to me, how can the unemployment rate go down, job creation numbers be positive, and yet we still have a rising number of people not in the workforce? And that's the conversation you never heard from the right under Obama. I tried to explain this to the right wingers and those insisting on these conspiracy theories. But I'm sure that if you presented these numbers to the Trump administration now, all of a sudden they would say, oh no, that number is misleading, and we'll tell you exactly why. There are signs of economic prosperity that pull people out of the labor force, and there are signs of economic downturn that pull people out of the labor force. I'll give you some examples, right? When you stop looking for work, you're no longer considered unemployed, but you aren't in the labor force anymore either. So you increase the number of people who are out of the labor force. If the economy is so bad that people can't find jobs for a long time and they become discouraged and stop looking for work, they exit the labor force. And that would be an example of when a growing number of people out of the labor force indicates a bad economy. But here's a counterexample. When the economy is good and people are more employed and earning more money, you have situations where one of the two people in a relationship would be able to afford not working anymore and, for example, going back to school or just taking care of the kids. That is an example of a reduction to the labor force, but it's because the economy is doing well that they can afford to get out of the labor force. Another example, full-time undergraduate college students are part of what the labor force measures. If you're in college and you're not working, you're out of the labor force. You're one of those 95.3 million. The problem is that if the economy is better, you were more likely to be able to afford just to go to school full time and not have to work. In other words, if your parents, for example, are doing better economically because they're both employed in a strong economy, you as a college student don't have to work. It's because the economy is better that you're not working, but you're adding to the number of people out of the workforce. See where I'm going with this? The labor force numbers include retirees. When the economy is better, more people can afford to retire. Why would we say that that's a bad sign for the economy? And lastly, when you have a bigger and bigger population like the US has, even if you hold the percentage of the country that's out of the labor force even, over time, because our population grows, you would have more and more people nominally in raw numbers outside of the labor force. So we have to understand how these numbers are created because neither party will consistently tell us the truth. They'll selectively either give or withhold information about the labor force participation rate and use those numbers to their advantage. And something that has been used, it was used for 8 years to slam President Obama during really a pretty good economy. It no longer matters because Trump is president of the United States. It's sort of like the debt under Republicans. Under Obama, the only issue is the debt, even though he reduced the deficit. And under Trump, tax plan, health plan that will blow up the deficit, but all of a sudden Republicans don't care about that. Understand the numbers to understand why it's so deceptive. The video you just watched was made possible by support from you. Please go to patreon.com/David Pakman Show. You can make a pledge of as little as $1 per month. And every dollar helps to support the work that we're doing, particularly in light of the YouTube ad boycott, which has been really bad.